You know exactly what needs to change. You've known for months, maybe years. You can explain the problem with perfect clarity. You understand the psychology. You've watched the videos, read the books, taken the notes. And yet, nothing changes. Same habits, same patterns, same life staring back at you every morning. And the question that keeps showing up late at night when everything is quiet is this: why? Why can't I change if I know exactly what's wrong? Most men think the answer is discipline, willpower, motivation. But what if the real reason has nothing to do with effort at all? What if your life isn't stuck because you don't know what to do, but because your current life is doing something for you? Because real change doesn't feel like progress, it feels like loss. And before we talk about how to change, we need to face the reason you haven't. This channel is for the man who stayed strong when no one noticed, the man who carried responsibility quietly and slowly disappeared. Here, strength is questioned, silence is exposed, and the cost of being the strong one is finally spoken out loud. You know exactly what needs to change. You've known for months, maybe years. You can describe the problem with perfect clarity. You understand the psychology behind it. You've consumed dozens of videos and books about how to fix it. And yet, nothing changes. You wake up with the same patterns, the same struggles, the same life you swore you'd leave behind. And the question that haunts you at 3 in the morning is this: why? Why can't I change when I know exactly what's wrong? The answer isn't what you think. It's not lack of willpower, it's not lack of knowledge, and it's not that you're broken. The reason your life will never change is simpler and more uncomfortable than that. You don't actually want it to. Let me explain what I mean. You want the result of change, absolutely. You want the better life, the healthier body, the deeper relationships, the meaningful work.
But you don't want change itself, because change requires something you're not willing to give. It requires becoming someone you're not ready to be. Change isn't addition, it's substitution. You can't add a new life on top of your old one. You have to replace the old one. And replacement means loss. It means killing off the version of yourself that's comfortable, familiar, and safe, even if that version is miserable. Here's what actually happens when you try to change. You get motivated, you make a plan, you start strong, and then the discomfort hits. Not physical discomfort, identity discomfort. The feeling that you're betraying yourself, that you're being fake, that this new version doesn't feel like you. And that feeling is so unbearable that you sabotage yourself back to familiar misery, because familiar misery feels more like home than unfamiliar growth. Your brain doesn't care if you're happy, it cares if you're consistent, and you've been miserable so long that misery is your identity. So when you try to change, your entire system rebels. Not because you're weak, but because you're trying to kill off the self your brain thinks you are, and your brain will fight to preserve that self even if it's destroying you. This is why knowledge doesn't create change. You can understand everything about why you're stuck and still stay stuck, because understanding lives in your conscious mind, but identity lives in your unconscious, and the unconscious always wins. You say you want to be healthier, but your identity is, I'm the guy who doesn't take care of himself. You say you want better relationships, but your identity is, I'm the guy people leave. You say you want success, but your identity is, I'm the guy who almost makes it but never quite does. And every time you try to change, you're not just changing behavior, you're challenging your core sense of self, and your brain treats that challenge like an existential threat.
So it creates anxiety, resistance, self-sabotage, anything to pull you back to the familiar version of you. The truth is, your current life, as miserable as it might be, is serving you somehow. It's protecting you from, so it creates anxiety, resistance, self-sabotage, anything to pull you back to the familiar version of you. The truth is, your current life, as miserable as it might be, is serving you somehow. It's protecting you from something you fear more than the pain you're in. And until you identify what that is, you will never change. Because you're not just fighting bad habits, you're fighting the psychological function those habits serve. Let me show you what this looks like. A man says he wants to lose weight. He tries, he fails, he tries again, he fails again. And he thinks the problem is discipline or motivation. But the real problem is his weight is protecting him from something. Maybe it's protecting him from the vulnerability of being attractive, from the expectations that come with being fit. from having to show up differently in the world. So every time he gets close to his goal, his unconscious sabotages it. Not because he's weak, but because losing weight means losing protection. And his brain would rather keep him safe and heavy than exposed and fit. Another man says he wants a relationship, but stays single for years. He thinks the problem is he hasn't met the right person. But the real problem is staying single protects him from rejection, from disappointment, from the risk of being hurt. So he creates standards no one can meet. He sabotages connections before they deepen. He stays alone and calls it preference. And the most insidious part is he genuinely believes he wants change. He's not lying when he says he wants a relationship. He wants the outcome. But he doesn't want the vulnerability required to get there. So his life never changes because the function of staying stuck is more powerful than the desire to grow. This is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to hear. Your life isn't changing because on some level you don't want it to. And I don't mean consciously, I mean functionally.
The patterns you hate are serving you, and until you're willing to lose what they're giving you, they will stay. So what do you do with this? First, you stop lying to yourself about wanting change. You get brutally honest and ask, what am I getting from staying stuck? What does this pattern protect me from? What would I have to face if this actually changed? Maybe your procrastination protects you from the fear of failure. If you never finish, you never have to find out if you're good enough. Maybe your anger protects you from feeling hurt. If you're always aggressive, you never have to be vulnerable. Maybe your isolation protects you from rejection. If you never let anyone close, they can't leave. Whatever it is, name it, because you can't change what you won't acknowledge. And most people spend their entire lives fighting symptoms while refusing to look at the function underneath. Second, you accept that real change requires death. Not literal death, but the death of the identity that's been keeping you safe. And that death will feel like loss, like betrayal, like you're abandoning yourself. And you have to be willing to feel that without running back to comfort. This is why change is so rare. Most people aren't willing to kill off the old self. They want to improve the old self, upgrade it, make it better. But you can't upgrade your way out of a fundamentally broken identity. You have to let it die and build something new. Third, you stop waiting to feel ready. You will never feel ready to become someone new. The new identity doesn't exist yet, so it can't feel familiar. And if it doesn't feel familiar, it won't feel right. You have to act your way into the new identity, not feel your way into it. You don't become confident and then take risks. You take risks and become confident through the experience. You don't become healthy and then change your habits. You change your habits and become healthy through repetition.
The identity follows the action, not the other way around. But here's the part that will make or break you. You have to be willing to be bad at being the new version of yourself. You have to accept that the new identity will feel fake, uncomfortable, and wrong for a long time, and you have to keep acting from it anyway. This is where most people quit. They try on the new identity, it feels inauthentic, and they run back to the old one because at least that feels real. But of course it feels real. You've been practicing it for decades. The new one doesn't feel real yet because you haven't lived in it long enough. You have to be willing to live in the discomfort of becoming until the new identity solidifies. And that takes longer than you want, it's harder than you expect, and it will feel wrong the entire time. But that wrongness isn't a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're changing. Fourth, you find the fear underneath the pattern and face it directly. Not manage it, not cope with it, face it. Because as long as the fear is running your life from the shadows, change is impossible. But when you drag it into the light and prove to yourself you can survive what you're afraid of, the pattern loses its power. If you're afraid of rejection, you pursue connection, knowing you might be rejected and discovering you survive it. If you're afraid of failure, you attempt something knowing you might fail and learning failure doesn't kill you. If you're afraid of being seen, you show up authentically and realize visibility isn't death. The fear doesn't go away, but it stops controlling you. And when it stops controlling you, the patterns that protected you from it become unnecessary. That's when change actually happens. Fifth, you accept that change is loss before it's gain. You will lose comfort, familiarity, the version of yourself you've known, and probably some people who are attached to that version. And you have to grieve that loss instead of pretending it doesn't hurt.
Change isn't just hard because it's work. It's hard because it's grief. You're mourning the death of the old self, even as you're building the new one. And if you don't allow yourself to feel that grief, you'll sabotage the change to avoid the pain. So here's the real answer to why your life will never change. It will never change as long as the fear of change is stronger than the pain of staying the same. It will never change as long as you're more committed to comfort than growth. It will never change as long as you're trying to improve the old identity instead of killing it and building a new one. But the moment you're willing to lose what's keeping you stuck, the moment you're willing to face what you've been avoiding, the moment you're willing to become someone you don't recognize yet, that's when everything shifts. Your life will change when you stop trying to change your life and start changing yourself. Not tweaking, not improving, but fundamentally becoming someone else. And that won't happen through motivation or information. It will happen through decision. The decision to stop protecting yourself from discomfort. The decision to stop serving the fear that's running your patterns. The decision to let the old self die so the new one can emerge. That's the answer.